I'm Rabyd, otherwise known as the Rabyd Atheist, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. You're free to like or dislike the video as you see fit, so feel free to hit those buttons. Feel free to comment below, and I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my videos as much as you like. The purpose of this channel is education in regards to atheism, deconversion from religion, particularly Christianity, as well as biblical studies issues, theological studies issues, and the occasional political science point in regards to religion thrown in, as some of you have more recently discovered. Today is a weekend video, Friday video, so I'm answering comments and questions. And that's kind of what I do. About 6 days ago, Vinny Rack wrote this. He says, "Hey Ed, happy to see the Don is back." He made the remark about the Godfather behind me being down, and that was because I was going to put my two ravens there and then put the Don a little bit farther over. It's my favorite movie too. I have a nuanced opinion regarding organized crime and its place in American political rubric, particularly as it relates to class. From its earliest beginnings in Sicily, La Cosa Nostra, its cousins in southern Italy, the Camorra, the Nagarita, had issues with Pezonerante, or Italian colloquialism. You'll hear uttered both by Vito Mico and The Godfather. Now, I may know that this may seem, but when one views evangelical Christianity through the lens of an organized regime with an independent but philosophically conjoined barotas, expectation of loyalty, rules to follow, particularly in regards to sex, money to be paid up, and top-down power structures with the ever-present threat of retribution for disobedience or betrayal, the parallels become obvious. I'm going to stop right there. There's more to this comment that I'll deal with. I love this comment because you're beginning to see one of the reasons why I find religion so dangerous and why I am so much now an anti-theist. I'm a very compassionate anti-theist. I don't get in people's faces. I don't yell at them. I have believers that are still family. But at the same time, the reason I take a stand and the reason I started this channel in large part was to help people out of the maze that is Christian dominance, which is this idea of a top-down structure. Even congregational churches have a top-down structure. It's just usually very informal. My last church was a good example of me being the figurehead and another person who had the positions of power actually running the show, even though I'm supposed to be the ministerial expert at the time. And so the unofficial thing is I'm kind of the face guy. I'm the guy that does all the PR work. I'm the guy that does all the work, but the other guy is pulling the strings and getting the votes the way he wants them. And that's kind of the way it works. And that's, if that sounds familiar to you, that's kind of the way it works. But even when you look at more Presbyterian or Episcopal government structures, you still have the people that rule by what I would call influence. And a criminal organization like the mafia very much is like that. You can have a Don, and you've seen this, not just in the movies, but if you really study the mafia for real, and organized crime for real, you can have a supposed leader who really isn't the leader. He's just the figurehead that keeps people in line, and through fear keeps things going, while somebody else is the organizational leader and calls the shots. That's not unusual. And in most churches, it's very similar. There's usually somebody who's the figurehead leader, the one that everybody, usually that's the pastor or the minister. And then you have this other one. Now, the most dangerous structures to me is when those two persons merge and become the same person. Then you have a true cult leader, which in my opinion at that point is somebody that is not only leading and organizing the place, but they are the figurehead. They are the people that everybody's looking for. I think Jim Jones was a good one. He organized, that whole society, and he also was the figurehead. When you have these two groups, come together, you really see that coming. This is a brilliant comment, by the way. I think it's a good analogy when I really look at it. Though physical violence is only occasionally manifested, the psychological and emotional distress is pervasive and just as damaging, particularly to the powerless, children, women, the poor, addicted, severely ill, or bereaved. And as with the real mafia, class resentment is the current that flows beneath it all, something to think about. Yeah, exactly. I remember when we talk about class and religion, uh, it's interesting which, how shall we say it, flavors of Christianity seem to inhabit certain neighborhoods. I've always found it interesting that the poor gravitate to the religions that give them the most hope, like Pentecostalism or holiness or something that, justifies their poverty. You'll see the middle class gravitate towards, say, the Methodist Church and some of the middle of the roads, and then, the bigger ones, you'll see, you know, the rich. I think I remember reading something about that in one of Robert Heinlein's books. I think it was his last book, this To Sail Beyond the Sunset, where he makes the remark about the class nature of Christian religion, that some churches appeal to the lower classes, other the middle, and other the higher. But it also, if you look at something like the Roman Catholic Church, they appeal to all. And so the reason is because within that is the undercurrents of class structure. So, I mean, I don't think class structure is avoidable. As somebody who's studied political science and social psychology, there's always an aristocracy. It's always a question of how that aristocracy is chosen. That's, to me, there's always a group of elite leaders that pull the strings. Either they're behind the scenes or in front of things or whatever. And so there's always somebody that takes the role of the mantle of leader. In religion, it gets really bad because you can cause people to have, all these other aspects of what they're doing. There's always this undercurrent of, pie in the sky by and by, or, this came from the word of God. I mean, I think what makes a cult leader so dangerous is they are both the organizational leader and the figurehead, but also they claim to be hearing from God or from some spiritual power. And so nobody even questions their authority at all. And this is the big thing. This is why this comment is a brilliant comment, because it deals to the issue of authority. I'm going to say this as a libertarian and as somebody who's come out of religion. Of the two, the most authoritarian and most damage I've ever seen done, and politics does a lot of damage, don't get me wrong, but some of the most damaging things I've ever seen done to other human beings has been in the name of religion. And when you tell your kids they're going to hell, for instance, if they don't start to straighten up, you're going to go to hell, and you start using God as a whip, okay, to get your kids in line. Okay, first of all, I agree with George Carlin. I think respect is earned. I always try to earn my children's respect and never force it on them. I think a lot of parents made the mistake. My mother was kind of like that a little bit. She wanted to force it. My dad, no, he's like, no, Ed's, we'll earn Ed's respect. I'm not going to demand it. So I guess that's kind of been, my motive when I was raising my kids. I didn't want my kids just to say, "You're dad, so therefore I have to do what you say." I wanted them to say, "You're dad, and I respect your decisions, because even when you're wrong, you're very humble about the fact and you admit you're wrong." I always admitted I was wrong when I was a parent. And, I knew a lot of Christian parents that didn't do that. And I think it caused a lot of rifts between their kids, because if you don't have enough humility to realize that in the exercise of your authority, you could be wrong, you have a problem. And religion definitely pads your pride. You're the head of the household. You're the spiritual leader of the house. Your word is law in that household. Boy, that kind of inflates a man's ego, doesn't it? Well, I got news for you. For some of these Christian houses, the men shouldn't be running the place at all. It should be their wife. But, that's not the way religion works. So there you have it. Free Bird of Reason, also on week 30 of last week's video. Thanks for sharing. I wonder how we could study the effects of religion has on people. If we were asked a person who has come out of religion questions, I think we'd get an honest answer. But if we ask the same question to a person inwardly, the answers were shadowed by the fact that it's difficult to answer honestly, although a person would not agree. I certainly know this to be true. Whilst into religion, mine happened to be Christianity because I live in England and it was part of the blueprint. I would not have been able to be honest, as I have a belief of God as watching my every move in body and mind. I would have felt so guilty speaking as part of the doctrine that it was not in agreement with, so I guess I would have buried bad thoughts and tried to push them away. Yeah, I think you make an excellent point, because one of the real challenges of getting the true effects of religion on a human person is I don't think people in religion honestly know what's happening. They think it's for good. Um, and that's the real problem. You know, they really think they're good people doing good things, and so when you question what that this could have a harmful effect on their psychology or their family or whatever, they ruffle. Their feathers ruffle against that, because you know their religion is good and Christianity is good and Jesus is good, and you know that just it makes it incredibly difficult to get across to people that something's going wrong. And I do think you have a good point. It's uh, a difficult thing to get good information on, but that's why I agree with you. I think what we have to poll a lot is people who have deconverted from whatever faith they've come out of. To me, that's far more accurate information than um, other ways of doing it, because then you, especially when they're fresh out of it, and you can kind of sit them down with a therapist and kind of deconstruct some of the things that they have trouble with, and then you can kind of get a good answer. I know there's studies that have been done about this. I'm sure I would have to look them up and try to find out what they are. But there's plenty of good studies that have been done, for instance, on the effects of authority and how it causes people to get really power trippy. And boy, if you tell somebody like a preacher or somebody that they have the gift of the Holy Spirit or the power of God in their lives, what a trip that would be. There's plenty of other things about authority where people will continue to obey authority even when they can knowingly sense that they're hurting somebody else, merely on the word of the authority figure. This has been done over and over again, and it's why I'm distrustful of government, because they take the authority and they tell people what to do, and people sometimes just blindly obey it. Well, the same is true for religion. So you have to really be careful what you're blindly obeying. It's like I've said before, obedience is not a virtue. Obedience is simply an act. You can be obeying somebody evil, so then your action isn't good. So there you have that. But you're right. I think we need to find a way to get better information about the effects of deconversion, the effects of religion in general. EC, from my video, Rabyd Ramblings, a couple days ago. I literally agree with everything you said in this video. You're a very sensible person. Thank you. I do have to correct something. That's why this has also got a correction. MAGA. Boy, there's a lot of MAGAs out there. I don't know which one you are, so I guess I'll just thing. It says during President Obama, the Democrats controlled Congress for the first 2 years, Congress in the middle 4 years. Yeah, and that's the correction I want to offer, because I originally thought, and I think I misspoke, and I may have got my brain twisted there. It happens from time to time. The Republicans at the end of the Obama administration and at the end of this term of Trump have control of the Senate. In particular, in Obama's case, he also had control of the House. That's probably one of the damaging things of Obama's legacy, is that his legacy was so poor, and this is speaking as a political scientist, his legacy was so poor that his last 2 years he had to rely on executive orders, which can be reversed, and he literally watched his control of Congress just dissipate after 2 years. After 2 years, he couldn't control anything. It was split. And then the Senate got taken over at the end of it. People just got tired of Obama. And then when Obamacare didn't work really all that well, and it made things more expensive, then it really looked like he had really screwed things up. So, and you can't escape that. People don't even really tout the merits of Obamacare anymore because they know it's so bad. Anybody who's in the medical community says, it's terrible, because you can't. There's literally people that need help that can't get anything, and then there's other people that don't need it, and somehow they get a free pass. And so I wanted to make that correction here at the end of this video. Freedom of Reason also thought that video is well thought out. Always looking forward to the next. Thank you. I didn't get a lot of comments this week, and that's okay. There's some weeks that I'm doing well. I'm in a stretch with my work that I think I work 2 days and I have 6 days off. I've already had a couple of days off, or I have 4 days off and I have 2 days on. So, and I have a longer stint. So I've got some videos that I'm going to put together. So if you see me wearing the same outfit next week for a couple of videos, it's probably because I recorded those videos at the same time at some point. So, but once again, thank you for all the comments. I appreciate you coming by, and hopefully someday I can turn you into a rabid atheist like myself. And in the meantime, this is Rabyd, also known as the Rabid Atheist, signing off and wishing you a good day.